Assalamualaikum and good day. Today we are going to present about exploring Malaysians' perspective on the concept of social credit system. So for the abstract, we technically focusing on exploring Malaysians' perspective on implementing social credit system based on China's framework to improve societal accountability and address crime. So from there also, we are focusing on five factors based on the survey conducted across various Malaysian states, which are demographics, societal norms, privacy security trade-off, cultural alignment, and also individual accountability. And based on that, we did find a few findings which are potential benefits in promoting societal order and acknowledge privacy concerns and skepticism about government oversight impacted acceptance and no significant correlations between factors and SES acceptance because of the sample size limitations. And then for that, we highlight the needs for all the cultural sensitive and balanced SES that we're addressing privacy and governance concerns. So for the introduction, we will start off the definition and global context. That basically the SES is evaluates individuals based on social behavior, legal compliance, and financial habit to foster trust, accountability, and social orders. And it is also implemented or tested in China, Australia, Germany, and also India, and aims to reduce corruption, promote transparency, and allocate resources effectively. So based on that also, we did a research focus on SMEs Malaysia perspectives on SES that impact on individual behavior, societal norms and growth opportunities, and explores privacy and cultural considerations for adopting and balanced SES framework in Malaysia, and highlight Malaysia's rising crime issues that including a 33.2 percentage increase in e-commerce fraud in Malaysia. So for the research also, we did find a benefits and concerns of social credit system. So for the benefits, we find that it will encourage responsible behavior and obedience to laws and societal norms, and then promotes transparency and reduce corruption by rewarding positive contribution to society. And the third is help maintain social order by penalizing misconduct and incentivizing compliance. And lastly, recognize SAS potential to enhance trust and accountability by fostering a sense of societal responsibility. So for the concern, we did find that it raises privacy concerns, creates a feelings of constant surveillance, and then risk a misuse of power, potentially disadvantage to certain groups, and may foster fear-driven compliance rather than genuine trust.
Hi, my name is Chang and my matrix number is 297670. So the next part that I'll be presenting is data collection. So the study area of our project is the entire Malaysia, which consists of Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Sabah, Sarawak, Selangor, and Terengganu. So the sampling technique that we are using is convenience sampling technique to receive our respondent. The survey was shared amongst friends and family as well as those within University Utara Malaysia. So respondents were encouraged to share the survey to their people of interest as long as the scope remained within Malaysia. So the study was conducted between December 2024 and January 2025. And there are three main sections in the survey, which are based on questions from Likert scale. So the first section of the survey was designed to collect the demographic information of the respondent. The next section was designed to provide a general idea of Chinese social credit system to the respondent, collecting information on respondents' acceptance of the system and whether or not they feel if it should be adopted in Malaysia. And the last section argued the Chinese social credit system is similar to existing rating system used in apps such as Uber. And questions are asked to gauge respondents' acceptance of that argument.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad HADIF bin AZRI, matrix number 297508, and I will talk about our data analysis section. To conduct our data analysis, we prepared 5 different null hypotheses, which we see over here, which are those of the Chinese demographic are not more accepting of a social credit system. Those who believe people should be rated for their worth are not more accepting of a social credit system. Those who believe people should be conformed to societal norms are not more accepting of a social credit system. Those who believe people should give up their privacy for security and other benefits are not more accepting of a social credit system. And those who believe the system respects cultural values are not more accepting of a social credit system. So these five are different factors we need to look into to determine if there is a correlation between the factor and the acceptance of a social credit system. To test for this correlation, we use the chi-square statistics test for all 5 different hypotheses. This is the characteristics of the respondents. Overall, we have 80 respondents, and as you can see, the majority is male with 58.8% and 41.3% for female. In terms of ethnicity, more than half of our respondents are Malay, and the second highest majority is Chinese, with the third, fourth, and fifth are split between Indian, indigenous races, and Siamese. So next up, we will take a look at our results for our first null hypothesis data analysis. So in this case, we can see that a large portion of Chinese respondents are more acceptable than not compared to the proportion of non-Chinese respondents, but the difference was small. And when we conducted a chi-square test, we got a value of 0.773. Assuming a significance level of 0.05, this was not enough to reject the null hypothesis. If we take a look at our second data analysis, we can see that out of those who supported the concept of grading drivers for their worth, more were accepting of a social credit system, while the remaining either showed no interest or disagreed with this implementation. Similarly, when we conducted the chi-square statistic test, we found a value of 0.181, which is not enough to reject the null hypothesis. This is likely to the low number of respondents, and we will see this pattern repeated over the next 3 tests. Now we'll take a look at the results of our third data analysis. As you can see, respondents were largely accepting of the idea that a social credit system would encourage the public to conform to societal norms. Out of that majority, 70% showed acceptance towards implementing a social credit system. However, when we conducted the chi-square statistics test, we found a value that is very near to zero. And this is, of course, not enough to reject the null hypothesis. Looking at our fourth result, we can see that out of those who are comfortable with trusting the government with more personal information, 88.57% agree with the idea of implementing a social credit system. When we conducted the chi-square statistics test, we again found a value of near zero, which is not enough to reject the null hypothesis. Next, we will take a look at our fifth and final test. As you can see, out of those who think that a social credit system goes hand in hand with Malaysia's culture, 78.72% has shown support in implementing such a system. However, when we conducted the chi-square test, we get a statistic value of near zero, and that is not enough to reject the null hypothesis. Overall, these strings of results were born from at least we think, were born from the low number of respondents, and that does not give us enough data to definitively conclude that these factors have an effect on the acceptance of a social credit system in Malaysia. That does not rule out these factors, it just means we do not have enough data.
Alright, so the next part is discussion. So our research evaluate the view and understanding of Malaysian citizens toward Chinese social credit system and their opinion and acceptance of whether a similar system should be implemented in Malaysia. So during our literature review, we found a study which suggests that Chinese people are more accepting of a social credit system. So in the West, the China social credit system is seen as repressive, while those living in China are more accepting of the pros and cons offered by the system. After looking through our finding and comparing, we found out that the result was inconclusive as there are not enough respondents to conclude a correlation between factors involved and our hypothesis. Our study has shown that while a larger proportion of Chinese respondents are more acceptable compared to the proportion of non-Chinese respondents, but the difference was small that we can definitely conclude if Chinese people are more accepting of the system compared to another ethnicity. Therefore, we've concluded that those of the Chinese demographic are not more accepting of a social credit system. So the next one is China's social credit system is not too different conceptually to widely accepted employee rating system. So we found a study that states that in Western society, citizens generally accept the idea of tracking a person's financial credit. So based on our study, we have concluded that those who believe people should be rated for their worth are not more accepting of a social credit system. As for the majority of the data, agreed that drivers should be graded for their service and quality, but only around half of those who have agreed are more accepting of social credit system, while the remaining either show no interest or disagree with its implementation. Alright, so the next one is hesitation of allowing the government to steer a person's behavior toward an accepted norm. So, from one of the past studies, when exposed to the Western framing, Chinese support of the China social credit system is negatively affected when it is explained that the system focuses on a person's social behavior, but sees no such effect when the focus is on financial behavior instead. So, through our study, we've compared the data from respondents and found that the respondents were largely accepting of the idea that a social credit system would encourage the public to conform to societal norm. Within that majority, there's a huge portion of respondents who showed acceptance towards implementing a social credit system to bolster said conformance. However, data analysis results are inconclusive, and therefore we concluded that who those who believe people should be conform to societal norm are not more accepting of a social credit system. And the next one is hesitation to adopt the system often stems from privacy concerns and reluctance to integrate external technology. So RIP and COSCA examined the acceptance rate of the Chinese social credit system in Southeast Asia, focusing on Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. So their study found generally high acceptance rate across this country, though still lower than China's. Hesitation to adopt the system often stems from privacy concern and reluctance to integrate external technology, particularly when sourced from China, which may hinder overall acceptance. So from another study, we also found that privacy concerns are at the forefront of this hesitation to adopt surveillance technology. So, from the data we've gathered, we found that the confidence in the Malaysian government ability to protect privacy is divided with a small part of respondents disagreeing, almost half of the respondents agreeing, and a quarter of the respondents being neutral. Among those trusting the government with personal information, most of them supported the implementation of social credit system. Though after data analysis was conducted, we found that there is no correlation between those that trust the government in this way and acceptance towards a social credit system, which led us to conclude that those who believe people should give up their privacy for security and other benefits are not more accepting of a social credit system. Alright, so in the last part, we'll be discussing about cultural values in Malaysia and whether a social credit system will respect them during its operation. So, the digitalization of our life reduces privacy, and without stricter policies, a system like the Chinese social credit system may naturally develop. China already utilized social media to reward compliance with government values and punish non compliance. In this section of our research, we've gathered data from respondents regarding cultural values in Malaysia and whether a social credit system would respect them during its operation. We found that respondents were divided on whether a social credit system aligns with Malaysia's cultural value, with a majority agreed, a tiny portion of respondents disagreed, and a fair amount of the respondents being neutral. Among those who agreed, most of them favored implementing the system, but due to small sample size, we were unable to find any correlation between cultural alignment and support. Therefore, we've concluded that those who believe in the system respect cultural values are not more accepting of a social credit system.
So, to conclude our research regarding exploring Malaysian perspectives on a social credit system, what we have found based on our respondents is that there are very mixed views which are shaped by the individual's privacy concerns, cultural values, and societal norms among our respondent data itself. However, we have also found out that our results are inconclusive due to the small sample size of only 80 respondents. Thus, we are unable to prove our hypotheses regarding this research itself. However, we do believe that the social credit system aligns with Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, which is a Malaysian policy regarding our government's commitment to sustainable growth with fair and equitable distribution across wide range of income groups, ethnicities, regions, and supply chains across Malaysia. This is shown as the social credit system is a system that helps to build social tolerances, build law abidances, and so on among the community and society as a whole. So it really aligns with this specific policy. Our recommendation for future researchers, as well as in case this research is continued, is to have a larger and diverse sample size in terms of the respondent data itself, where we estimate 150 to 200 respondents are needed to prove any of the hypotheses that we have come up with. So that is all from us today. Thank you very much.